invite Jrob to
Wait.
the live.
Okay. I see.
Yep, what's good? Jrob in here, guys. Send my invite.
Send Jrob that invite.
And then, guys, remember we have the Discord links in the description and the bio. So feel free to join the Discord servers. We got the Venmo back up here. I don't know what's going on.
How do I forgot how to drop on it. A disconnect. Okay, cool.
All right, AR, take care. Appreciate you. Thank you, Wisdom, for joining us.
Wisdom, take care. And let me see who's in the request. We got Jrob. Okay, we are ready to go.
And
so,
yep, we're good.
Cool. We are on a bit of a time crunch, so let me get myself set up real quick, and then we can move on to the debate. Today we have Jay and Jrob, and they're going to be debating: are anecdotes good evidence for God? Jay is going to be doing the negation, and Jrob is going to be doing the affirmation. So I do have to ask you guys, because we're limited on time, are you guys okay with just 3-minute cross-examinations and 2 rounds of 3-minute cross-examinations?
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you okay with that, Jrob?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, and Jrob, you will be going first with your 3-minute opener on the topic of: are anecdotes good evidence for God? You'll be arguing that they are good evidence for God. So you can start whenever you're ready.
All right. Give me 1 second.
Ready to go?
1 second. 1 second. I'm sorry, I didn't have my notes. All right. All right. So I'm arguing that anecdotes are good evidence for the Christian God. The Christian God is a personal entity, and if we agree that evidence is something is any data point that raises the probability of a proposition being true, then if Christianity is true, then we should expect many anecdotes that can be supernatural in nature, life-changing, transforming experiences. And what we do have is thousands of years and billions worth of anecdotes that are supernatural in nature. So this would raise the probability of Christianity being true. Anecdotes are a actual solid form of evidence in many different fields in which we all agree on are scientific, are things such as like psychology, sociology. None of these fields of study could even exist if they did not rely on anecdotes. History relies on anecdotes. Some of the greatest medical breakthroughs that we find are solely based off of anecdotes and studies regarding these anecdotal experiences. So to say that anecdotes aren't good evidence, I would just say that goes against everything we know about any field of study with regards to humanity. So there's many different things I'm limited in time, but there's many different examples that I can point to. Maybe I'll get to them later on in the discussion. But there are many people from different like cultures, different civilizations who had no knowledge of Christianity, no knowledge of the Christian God, but they would have dreams and visions that revolve around the Christian God, and then led them to the Christian faith. And none of this can be explained under an atheistic world, or let me say that it is highly unexpected under an atheistic worldview. And again, it would raise the probability of Christianity being true. So he would Jay is going to have to provide a reasonable explanation for the amount of anecdotes that,
Finish your
again,
last sentence.
from all different backgrounds that point to Christianity.
Okay, that concludes your opening statement. Jay, it's now your turn for your opening statement. You can start whenever you're ready.
How you doing, guys? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the esteemed judges, and of course, my opponent. So, as we gather here today in this arena of ideas, we find ourselves navigating the complex and often profound journey of human belief and experience. At the heart of our debate lies a question that has shaped the philosophical, spiritual, and even scientific landscapes of our existence. Is anecdotal evidence good evidence for God? Anecdotal evidence, in its essence, represents a singular experience, a personal story, soaked in emotion and perception. It is the profound account of a life transformed, a miracle witnessed, or a serene moment of divine connection that ignites the imagination and stirs the soul. These narratives are visceral and compelling, echoing through the halls of human experience like a melodic refrain. They remind us that indeed our existence is stitched together with the threads of stories told and retold throughout the ages. Today, however, as we stand in this confluence of belief and skepticism, we must interrogate these whispers and affirmations of faith. Are these snippets of personal experience empirical truth? Can they stand as bastions of evidence sufficient for understanding the universe, let alone the presence of a deity? On one side, we have the mighty tapestry of anecdotal evidence, vibrant with colors of unique experience. A cancer patient touts the miraculous touch of a prayer. A wanderer finds solace at a mountain's peak, basking in a spiritual embrace that transcends the mundane. These accounts are powerful. They pierce priorities and answer unvoiced longings, but herein lies the crux. Are they universal? Recollections can be tinted by individual perspectives shaped by content, culture, and even the biases that inhabit our thoughts. Do these personal stories weave a coherent narrative about the existence of God, or do they just span an infinite array of interpretations and obscure collective understanding? Let us venture forward with an open mind as we assess the pivotal question at hand today, as we explore the power of anecdotal evidence. Let us endeavor to sift through the rawness of lived experiences to acknowledge both its virtues and its limitations. One can find value in inspiring stories that lift spirits and shape minds, yet we must also grapple with their subjectivity, recognizing that a greater body of evidence and a logical framework often guide our understanding of the world around us. So therefore, let us embark on an intellectual journey today. Let us explore, dissect, and critically examine the evidence in the spiritual domain. Open your mind to the inconsistencies of belief and the anecdotes that these beliefs foster, while sharpening our mind to seek truth, not merely in the singularity of experience, but in the
Finish your last
analysis of
sentence.
entirety. Together we will navigate whether these personal tales indeed provide verifiable sustenance for such a monumental question. Is anecdotal evidence good evidence for God? Thank you.
There we go. Thank you, Jay, for your opening statement. We are now going to move on to cross-examination. Jrob, you're going to do yours, and that's going to be 3 minutes. Let me know whenever I can start the timer.
All right, go ahead. All right, Jay. Do you agree that anecdotes are used in various different professions such as medicine, psychology, epidemiology? Do you agree with that?
If you're asking, like, is anecdotal stories or the like used in the medical field or the scientific field, at minimum, I would say.
At minimum, so like when there's like an outbreak of a disease going on, that we just discard all of the, or we minimalize the anecdotal evidence that we have for said virus or epidemic.
I think what you're doing is you're mistaking anecdotal evidence for what they call postulate evidence. In other words, this evidence that we're talking about is an accumulation of different evidences that point to a particular disease, virus, or that type of thing in the medical field, and what the symptoms of this particular virus or what particular medical condition exhibits. So that wouldn't be considered anecdotal evidence, as these evidences are not wholly thought of or interpreted
Okay.
or imagined
All right.
by the people that are experiencing these things.
All right. Let me reclaim my time. So, what about just very quickly, psychology? Do you agree that we rely on anecdotes to build psychological understandings?
And I think you're making a mistake when you're saying anecdotes. What you're talking about is affirmations. These affirmations are used in the psychological world in order to bolster some form of mental change or mental thought pattern change, or some form of bolstering some form of like
But those mental changes are expressed and through anecdotal experiences, subjective experiences being reported
yeah.
to
Yeah, again,
psychology.
you're saying anecdotal, but what you're actually meaning is a the psychological patient that is seeing a psychological doctor, such as a psychiatrist or something like that, is simply telling about the different experiences that they go through with their particular mental health condition. These are not anecdotal, as they are not
Finish your last sentence.
imagined or have some form of bias toward them.
Okay, we're cutting it off there. Jay, it's now your cross examination. So your turn to ask Jrob questions and control the narrative. You can start anytime.
Okay. Jrob, you are a believer in God. Am I correct in
Yes.
that? Okay, so if it was that like you maybe knew someone else, right, who say you had a anecdotal evidence toward the supernatural, right? If you knew someone who also had anecdotal evidence, but that anecdotal evidence contradicted your experiences, right? How would you reconcile that with like your belief in God based on like personal stories?
Yeah. So my argument is there's a culmination. A cumulative case of evidence. Not just one simple anecdotal experience wouldn't really change my perspective, but hearing somebody else's experience that may differ from mine would potentially
Yeah, I
depend.
didn't say differ. I didn't say differ. What I said was this anecdotal experience contradicts your anecdotal experience about the same topic, which is the maybe a supernatural event.
So yeah, if it contradicts, it depends on the case. I would have to examine it and see how it is consistent with my worldview. I haven't heard anything that isn't consistent with my worldview.
Okay, I'm just going to move on. What role do you think that scientific evidence has in your worldview, in your understanding of God's existence?
Yeah, scientific evidence is only the study of nature. So I would say that it would just, science kind of reflects what God has created. But as far as God, um, the supernatural is something that can't be explored through scientific means.
Okay, and this next question is going to be just a bit tough. I will ask you though to probably stick with the the question, or stick with answering the question that I'm asking, because so far
Okay.
you really haven't kind of engaged with the questions that I'm asking. So, how do you reconcile the idea of a powerful God, right, with the existence of, say, suffering or evil or just wrongdoing, especially when you have individuals who have these anecdotal stories, and these anecdotal stories point to the struggle that people go through under the regime of, say, an all-powerful,
Finish up the
all-knowing,
question.
all-good God.
Yeah, I don't
Jrob, you
think
can answer that, and then we move on.
I don't think it's relative to the argument, but I would just say that the God I believe in explains why there's suffering in this world. So um, yeah, I didn't really get the question, but I don't see how it relates to the topic.
Okay, we'll stop right there. Jrob, it's going to be your second and last cross examination. You can start anytime.
All right, I guess I'll just give you like a thought experiment. Let's say somebody you loved was extremely sick and ill and on the brink of unalivement, um, and there was no possible way we know that we could heal them. And then let's say thousands of people from all across the planet who didn't know you, your family, or anybody, and they all came to you and said that they had a dream or a vision that you know your loved one would be healed if I don't know, took a gun to her face and shot that person, right? That you shooting that person would cause something to happen supernaturally that would heal that person. Would you do that?
No, vehemently no, as I don't know. Um, I don't know any of the people that you're talking about, right? I wouldn't know any of the people that you're talking about, so I don't know what
Yeah.
their mental states would be.
Yeah. So
I
Jay. So
also don't
Jay.
know that if they're suffering from some sort of, let me answer the question.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would be suffering from
Well,
some
okay.
sort of
You
mass
answer my question.
hallucination
You
or
answer my
mass
question.
insanity.
Jay, let me reclaim my
Reclaiming
time.
time.
You answered the question. You said no. All right. So I want to ask you again. These people don't know you. They don't know each other. They have like you verified that they never had any collumination. They thousands of people from different cultures and countries everywhere. They came to you with no knowledge of anything, but all of them said that they had a vision or a dream.
Knowing what I know about psychology, I could simply state that it's a mass hallucination, some mass hysteria that's causing these people to tell me that if I do this thing, that this thing will happen. And
So,
so I would take it with a grain of salt, or I
so
would
what?
probably research it more, or apply the scientific
So,
method to it to find out if it's
so you
true
would
or not,
credit
or if it
to
could be
you
true.
said knowing what you know. So what do you know that shows that mass hallucination works in this way?
Well, there are a number of cases where mass hallucinations have happened to people, where hundreds of people seen the same thing,
Are those hundreds
and
of
it
people within? Are those hundreds of people within the same culture, the same civilization, the same group?
well, it doesn't really matter because mass hallucinations can span, not only can span from person to person, but can span from group to group.
So yeah,
So
can you give me
this
can you
is
give an
this is
example?
scientifically documented.
Yeah,
I
can
mean,
you give an example of people from entirely different
Stop right there.
continents?
That would be the end of your time. And
Okay.
then Jay, we'll be moving on to your final cross examination. You got 3 minutes. You can start at any time.
okay, so just as your question was kind of geared toward me having some form of consideration for the unexplained, or for the metaphysical world, or the God world, or the supernatural world, have you ever considered alternative explanations for the events in your personal stories that could be unrelated to God?
Of course. Yeah, I've considered these things, but I know what coincidences are, and I know that certain things just can't.
What type of explanations have you considered?
Yeah, I've considered hallucinations. I've considered, motivations or confirmation bias. I've considered all these things.
What criteria do you use to determine if an anecdotal story is a legitimate sign of God's presence?
Yeah, consistency, right? Consistency with other experiences that again aren't.
What do you mean by consistency?
Yeah, consistency. So just like in the example I gave you, people from different cultures who have no ties to each other have the exact same revelation or exact same experience, and it, it it aligns perfectly. That's
It
how.
aligns perfectly. It aligns perfectly under your bias, or does it align perfectly under the scientific realm and I'm sorry, not the scientific realm, but the scientific world and what we know about science today, and psychology, and what we know about cultural bias, and what we know about the effects of poverty on individuals' psyche and that type of thing. Does it align with that, or just does it align with
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
God
So
and
so
this
the
is supernatural?
So the information that I provided would rule out any biases or a cultural background that would influence these type of experiences, because this is counter to all of that information.
So would you say, like, if a group of people who believed in God saw something like God's hand coming out of the sky, and they all were of the same culture but spanned land mass, right? Would you say like that one group could not influence the other group into stating that they saw the same thing just so that they would be part of the culture and remain part of the culture?
I mean, if there's evidence for that, but a lot of times the evidence kind of goes against that. A lot of people
Okay,
face
finish up your answer.
Yeah, a lot of people face persecution and martyrdom, for their, inspired, experience. It's kind of counterintuitive to that type of notion.
Okay, we'll stop you right there. So that was Jay's cross examination. So J-Rob, you're going to be doing a 2-minute closer. You can start at any time.
Damn, right. 2 minutes. All right. So Jay has failed to show that under Christianity, that anecdotes doesn't raise the probability of Christianity being true. If Christianity was false, then we shouldn't expect any anecdotes. We should expect more people going with their culture, not going against their culture. And amongst these anecdotes, we have a ton of supernatural experiences. There's tons of people that I wanted to bring up. I didn't get a chance to, but if anybody wants any examples, there's tons of examples. One I'll speak about is the Fulani people. The Fulani people were a largely Muslim group who experienced a widespread phenomenon of dreams of a man dressed in white, and they recognized it as a divine message. They didn't have any background in Christianity. One man named Baba, he was a Fulani leader. He had a similar dream, and the figure that was dressed in white told him to follow the truth, and this led him to embrace Christianity. When a Christian missionary arrived, the Fulani people, they already knew that there was a prophecy that was given that a missionary was going to come to their country, and they were ready for this, and they recognized the man based off of their dreams, and this spread throughout the Fulani people in West Africa. You can look it up yourself, but there's other examples here, and then there's tons of healings, miracles, people who are having these encounters with Jesus. I mean, to me, to say it's
Finish your last
coincidence.
sentence.
To me, like, to say it's coincidence is just pure denial of the reality.
Okay, Jay, it's your turn to start your 2-minute conclusion. Whenever you're ready.
J-Rob and individuals like him have the issue of considering anecdotal evidence as evidence for God. But what I don't think they've considered is the possibility that their personal experiences might be influenced by an existing belief about God. telling of one story about the Fulani people does not turn this debate on its ear and suddenly put Jrob in the lead when it comes to this debate, as he's not giving me answers on how he himself would reconcile ideas of like a powerful God with the existence of suffering and evil, or how he would account for situations where this anecdotal evidence could be considered compelling enough support in a belief in God without scientific verification. He lacks in the notion that someone contradicting his anecdotal experiences or anecdotal experiences of others, how he would reconcile with something like that, or how individuals would reconcile with that, with their belief in God, and how they would base that on their personal experiences. So in the end, I don't really think that Jrob has given any credible affluence to the argument that anecdotal evidence is any better than just telling stories and passing those stories down, or having some psychological experience that is shared only by the
Finish
notion
your last
that these
sentence.
cultures, these people in these cultures, and these people in this belief structure just want to be part of this belief structure, so they will go along with the story and consider it to be supernatural or evidence for God.
Okay, and that will conclude your guys' debate. Thank you guys very much. We really appreciate it. Round of applause for you guys.
Yep.
Right now there is a poll, so the audience members, you can vote on who you think won that debate, and I will be screenshotting all of the results of the polls and maybe posting them. We'll see. But thank you guys for being here. How do you guys feel about that debate? How do you guys feel it went?
I mean, that was great. That was great. The thing about anecdotes is always going to be a little tricky for me, but I like how they both parsed out their viewpoints Jay's opener was amazing, poetic. I love that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Jrob, you also did like very well. Both of you guys did very well. Both of you guys were prepared. But yeah, thank you guys for coming up and debating. And with that, we are a bit short on time, but after this debate, we might have some room for like a little bit of commentary. But the next debate is going to be like the highlight of the night.
Are they next?
Yeah, they're next.
Nice. Alrighty. Let's get it going.
Everyone will drop you down, and thank you guys for being here.
Thanks a lot. That was
Thank you.
actually pretty fun.
All right.
Yeah, appreciate y'all, man. God bless.
Alrighty.